Okay, I want to talk about this book of Enoch. And I told you before that Enoch urinated on himself when he was in the presence of the snow white God and the snow white angels. And I'm going to read this to you from the Ethiopian book of Enoch. It says, in the year 500, in the 7th month, on the 14th day of the month in the life of Enoch, in the same parable I saw that the heaven of heavens was quaking and trembling with a mighty, tremulous agitation, and the forces of the Most High and the angels, 10,000 times a million and 10 million times 10 million, were agitated with great agitation. And the antecedent of time was sitting on the throne of his glory, surrounded by the angels and the righteous ones. Then a great trembling and fear seized me, and my loins and kidneys lost control. So I fell upon my face. I'm going to stop. So when he says that his kidneys and his loins lost control, it means he urinated on himself. Now it's interesting that he said that the heavens were agitated. Almost sounds like a storm or something coming in. And as I've told you before, God was snow white, and so were the angels, and they appeared like men. In the book of Enoch, the Ethiopian book of Enoch, it says, as for the women, they gave birth to giants to the degree that the whole earth was filled with blood and oppression. So it tells you the union of these angels and the human women, whatever that means, gave birth to giants. And I told you before that the giants turned against the people. It says, so the giants turned against the people in order to eat them. And they began to sin against birds, wild beasts, reptiles, and fish. This is page 16 and 17 out of the Old Testament pseudepigrapha Ethiopian book of Enoch. Now, as I said, that they appear like men, on page 22, it says, under Enoch's tour of the earth and Sheol, the first journey, and they lifted me up into one place where there were the ones like the flaming fire, and when they so desire, they appear like men. Okay. So that tells you that they appear like men. I've told you this before. And I also told you that God and the angels were white. If we go to page 50 of this Ethiopian book of Enoch, it says, with them is the antecedent of time. His head is white and pure like wool, and his garment is indescribable. I fell on my face, my whole body mollified, and my spirit transformed. Then I cried with a great voice by the Spirit of the power, blessing, glorifying, and extolling. End quote. And I've read to you before that Noah had white skin and glowing eyes, bright eyes is what they said. And they thought he was a child of one of the Watchers. So you can no longer deny this. This is the Ethiopian book of Enoch. Now, some of the other things that are quite apparent as to what is going on here comes from this book of the patriarchs, and it is misogyny completely. And it says on this page 754, for women are evil, my children, and by reason of their lacking authority or power over man, they scheme treacherously how they might entice him to themselves by means of their looks, and whomever they can enchant by their appearance they conquer by a stratagem. Indeed, the angels of the Lord told me and instructed me that women are more easily overcome by the spirit of promiscuity than are men. They contrive in their hearts against men, then by decking themselves out they lead men's minds astray. By a look that they implant their poison, and finally in the act itself they take them captive. For a woman is not able to coerce a man overtly, but by a harlot's manner she accomplishes her villainy. Accordingly, my children, flee from sexual promiscuity, and order your wives and your daughters not to adorn their heads and their appearances so as to deceive men's sound minds. For every woman who schemes in these ways is destined for eternal punishment. For it was thus that they charmed the watchers who were before the flood. As they continued looking at the women, they were filled with desire for them and perpetrated the act in their minds. Then they were transformed into human males, and while the women were cohabitating with their husbands, they appeared to them. Since the women's minds were filled with lust for these apparitions, they gave birth to giants. For the watchers were disclosed to them as being as high as the heavens. So, end quote. Okay, so this is woman hatred. It is complete jealousy of the watcher. It is denial of nature. How did these men come into being? Just complete narcissism. Now, we've been told that the Union created giants. Well, these watchers were white and they were giant. This was a giant white race. So who were these Semites? Were they Neanderthals? And we take a look at this Orthodox group and compare it to an image of a Neanderthal. It looks pretty close. Now, this was the Ethiopian book. Were these troglodytes? I don't know. This is, the Ethiopian book of Enoch, but this patriarch book comes from the Semites. So was it a jealousy of one species or race or whatever you want to call it of another? And the Neanderthal DNA is in mostly European blood and high percentage in the Jewish bloodline as well. But you have a Semitic Jew, and then you have an Ashkenazi Jews. The Ashkenazis, to me, are Scythians. They are not the original Semite. They are not Semite. That is why they're called Ashkenazi. So this comes to me, a race of men jealous of another race of men. And they then decide that the women have to wear head coverings and not look so desirable so that they may keep the women from the larger white man. And I don't believe that these Semites were black. This has nothing to do with black Africans. It has nothing to do with white Europeans. This is the Semite. And that comes from their religion. This is what they've spread, along with child genital mutilation. So it is time now to put our big boy and big girl pants on and to be honest about what has taken over this planet and where it came from and what was going on and who these giant white people were that were technologically and mentally advanced compared to this whatever group. So don't claim this. If you are white or black, I would not claim this as your history. It has nothing to do with you. This goes back to the Semite. This is theirs. And we're going to take a look in the next video of how long these Nephilim lived. That's it.